I'm Dana Childs. You can find me at danachildsintuitive.com. I offer online courses, private sessions, classes, retreats, all kinds of fun stuff. So again, it's danachildsintuitive.com if you want to learn more about me and check that out. And then Kim, I'm going to toss over to you and let you introduce yourself and tell a little bit where they can find you.
Thank you very much. I am Kim Russo. For those of you who do not know me, I am a psychic intuitive channeler for spirit, ascension counselor, medical intuitive. You can find me at kimthehappymedium.com. You can check out my books and whatever courses I offer, and you can read all about me on my site. And I am so excited to be here with Dana. And Dana, we met very briefly at a live event that we both did, and we automatically were just drawn to each other. And Spirit's using us now, and they said, hey, you guys have to get on a Zoom and tell the people what you know and teach them.
Right.
So here we are.
Here we are. And I love it so much because I think we come from different sort of backgrounds of how we got into this and what we do. And so we have different perspectives as well. So it's fun to take these questions that our viewers want to know and go from different perspectives. Sometimes, you know, we really have the same perspective and we agree. And sometimes it's different, but it's always fascinating to look at like, oh, what does this person think? And then we can incorporate that or see what feels right about it and sort of stretch ourselves too. So it's really fun to do this.
Yeah, well, this Spiritual Chit Chat came about, this Zoom, is because we were on a phone call just to let the viewers know. And we said, hey, you know, wouldn't somebody else want to be a fly on the wall when they were listening to us brainstorming and just kind of going back and forth, binging things off of each other? And then it just kind of came about like, wow, let them be a fly on the wall with our conversation.
Right.
And let's include the audience because they very often feel like they don't have a chance to ask people like you and I questions. So here we are, and we took our list of questions from our Instagram accounts, our Facebook accounts, and we wrote them down, and we will be addressing you right now, guys. Like in the moment, we are here to answer your most burning questions.
Yes. And so Kim, I know one of the areas you talk a lot about is ascension, and we got lots of questions about ascension. So I'm going to let you give a brief overview of sort of what ascension is, you know, what they can be looking for, and then we can dive into questions from there.
Okay, so I do like to talk in layman's terms. I don't want to get too technical with people because then they will lose the idea of what this is. And in my second book called Your Soul Purpose, my spirit guides told me to write about the ascension. And this was 1 year ago release of the book. And they told me that I needed to write this book ASAP, not knowing that COVID would be coming about. We are going through the biggest shift that any of the galaxies has ever witnessed in any type of era. And when I say planetary shifts, the Earth, which is planet Earth, which we are all dimensional beings, that we came here on planet Earth to be a part of this human experience. The actual Earth is rising in its own vibration. The Earth has a magnetic pulse. It has a heartbeat. And scientists have actually measured this heartbeat of the Earth. And they've never seen the heartbeat and the rate of the planet raised to this highest frequency that we are living in now. And basically, we're moving out of a three-dimensional vibratory planet, which is everything is dense and murky, and we can't see clear in front of us, and we're very restricted through the lens of our, you know, three-dimensional lenses right here, the two eyes. We are now shifting higher. The Earth is taking us with her in her rising up. And what happens as a side effect to humans is we start to come in out of the eyes of the five senses, and we start seeing things through our heart, which is the portal and the opening to ascending higher. Many mystics call it heaven on earth. being able to create miracles, being able to manifest anything we want in lickety-split seconds. And this is what's happening now. So you're going to see a lot of corruption and a lot of three-dimensional, heavy, dense energy is changing and shifting. And that's why we're seeing all this nonsense on the news, because the vibration of 3D can't sustain the energy of the earth that's rising up. So we are either going to rise up with Mother Earth, or we're going to stay in the lower density where all the fighting, the hate, the anger is. And this is not where most people that are tuning into our broadcast right now are staying. They're going up.
Right.
And they're waking up every day. We're waking up with the light codes that are coming from planet Earth. So it's the most exciting time to be alive, Dana.
Yeah,
People don't know that.
It makes sense. So when I'm working with people with energy, a lot of times what will happen is they'll have symptoms, like as we work to shift their vibration, their vibratory spin, they will get symptoms, and they will have symptoms that kind of come up and come out, and they're flushed out. So it's almost like what's happening with the planet is sort of what happens with our bodies when we start getting clean and clear, whatever doesn't fit, be it virus, bacteria, old stagnant emotions, other people's emotions. It has to kind of pass through and come out, which creates symptoms. So with Ascension, what are the typical symptoms that might happen that people are kind of looking for?
Well, I myself am having a lot of digestive issues. Our bodies are raising its frequency. So our DNA is mutating into more of a light body. And so we are probably finding ourselves not actually wanting to eat heavy meats. Most people might be wondering, wow, I can't really sustain the heavy meat. So they're turning to a vegan diet with a lot of nutrients that are, rich in chlorophyll, everything from the earth. So digestion, a lot of people are claiming to be lightheaded, having headaches, dizziness, lethargy, really tired, can't keep their eyes awake. Also brain fog. A lot of people can't focus right now. They're all over the place. They go from one thing to the next. They feel like they're stuck in mud sometimes, but that's just you breaking out of the 3D, rising into 5D. The earth is now currently vibrating at a 5-dimensional rate.
Right.
So people say, well, what happened to 4D? And some people are still in 4D. The planet will wait for you. There's no rush. Everything happens in divine timing for each soul. So we're not speaking about this like where you shouldn't feel like you're left behind right now.
Right. And how does 4D differ than 5D?
Well, it's just on, when you think about it, it's in my opinion, a lot of people think it's the astral plane of consciousness. I kind of tend to disagree with that a little bit, but we are rising up. It's more 4D is more starting to have the compassion, starting to question things that you see on the news. We really just have one eye open in 4D. Like
just the waking up, like, oh, wait, there's more to me. There's more out there.
Something doesn't make sense. So you start to question, right?
Totally.
Correct.
Right. And then 5D is like kind of being more in it, being able to work with it.
Well, and there's no limit. We could rise higher than 5D, and that's still a state of consciousness. Our bodies are not going to float up anywhere, but our consciousness is rising up, and we're starting to remember who we are as sovereign beings, all connected to one divine source, and the separation is not going to exist anymore in our perspective. That's why you see a lot of these young people protesting and on the news, and it's a lot of the young ones because they actually were born to change the paradigm.
Oh, I love that.
They're really passionate about protesting for equality, for rights, for human rights. And people think that they're just being silly and they're, looking for trouble. They're very passionate. They're out there crying because they know they came here to change the world that we were living in.
And they're feeling what's off about it. Yeah.
What's
I love that. Okay. So I know we got some questions about the Ascension. I'll let you start off. I know our first question is from your follower, Sherry Metzger on Facebook.
Yes, Sherry Metzger. What if your vibration is higher than the people you live with and the people you are around, like your friends and your siblings? So my spirit guides told me not to try to recruit anyone. Hold the light, stay in your own light, stay in your own heart. And just by your vibration, it becomes contagious. They will start to feed off of your light and your vibration. And it's like a domino. It's catching. It's more catching than the COVID virus, believe it or not. So that's the most simple answer that I can offer.
I love that. It makes sense. You know, I kind of have that awareness around that, where when we go home, we spend time with our families, we vibrate in that lower first chakra place, that tribal place. And so our vibration gets lower, we get a little bit tired. So one of the things I like to do is utilize caffeine in moderation. If we do caffeine, because that can pop it up. But then if everybody goes out of the house, like your family goes out of the house for a walk or for a break or to the beach or to, you know, wherever they want to go, it's just to kind of boost the vibration in the space. Just ask for source to come in and boost that vibration. And so then when everybody comes back in, they kind of feel the lift. They're all sort of taken with it, because we can't necessarily manipulate anyone else's vibration. It's not fair. I think that's a little unethical to tweak someone's energy when they're not giving you permission, but we can tweak the space around us and push that up. And then ultimately, Kim, I agree with you. It's that idea of getting to the highest vibration possible and holding that and not letting your vibration being impacted. And if it is impacted, that's a signal that that's where your own personal work lies.
Right, and it will clear what's already inside of you. Like, it will happen in a way where you would be triggered from a childhood memory or something that you need to clear, like abandonment issues, or I'm seeing so many people's issues. But the light codes are coming in and they're cleaning it out like a roto-rooter.
Right.
And I would like to just tell people, because I've found this to be helpful for myself when I'm in the midst of the three-dimensional, we'll always, you know, go back and forth between 3D and 5D and maybe even higher, because we're humans. So we're allowed to have our 3D days. Like when, you know, the news comes on, we can just go back into the fear. But what I like to do is I put my two hands on my heart and I just breathe at least for 10 seconds, and I feel my heartbeat, and I bring my energy back into my heart, where I allow it to get transmuted by the heart chakra. And I know that at that moment, my own spirit guides are helping me to just remember who I am. So thank you, Sherry. That was a wonderful question. Dana, did you have any questions on Ascension?
No, I think that makes sense. I love that.
So Trojan Brewer from Instagram did ask about the physical symptoms, and we did cover that. Yeah. And those were a lot of headaches, a lot of digestive issues, dizziness, hard to focus. And we also answered Cycle Fran from my Instagram's question, what does it mean to live in 5D? Please explain. It's living in the heart. It's getting rid of the fear and going to the love, in more plain English terms. And so we also have COVID. COVID is on everyone's mind right now, Dana.
It is. No, it's, you know, it came in like a bang. And I'll tell you, when it first came in the spiritual community, there were all these people saying like, oh, it's coming in to teach us to love, and it's coming in to give us time for our spiritual purpose. And I had a very different experience with that, because I have siblings who, one's a nurse and one is in server and grocery work. And so it wasn't like they didn't have all this time to read and muse, and, you know, like that's a great piece of it. And some of us did. That was what it was for. But for them, it was about their being called to service. You know, they were of hearty stock, as we say in my family, and they were kind of called more to be of service. And that was sort of what COVID was for them, is it called up that higher service place. So I think this idea about what COVID is, I had a question from Instagram, Love Will Prevail, asks, you know, what is it here to teach us? And so while for some of us, it may have given us that pause, that break, that ability to take in more spiritual information, to take up meditating, to learn how to do a little yoga, to learn how to open up, it may have done that. For others, it was a call to rise to their service, to get to step into, you know, what they were created and here to do, is how to serve humanity. But I do think that that bigger call is for all of us to look at, how are we treating others? You know, what are we thinking about other people as we're also thinking about our own health, and to take stock of how we're living, you know, what's important, and to reprioritize in humanity. What's your take on COVID?
I totally agree with everything you just said. And the way my spirit guides told me, and we've always had horrible events that allowed us to band together as one human, you know, mind and get the job done, like when 9/11 happened, another horrible event. But now this is world, this is global. Now, every person on the planet here has heard about COVID and is being affected by COVID. So we are all connected to each other, and we're plugged into one human grid. And for the light workers that were born for this time, my spirit guide said, it is glow time. COVID kicked off the glow. So glow as much as you can as a light worker. And this is what we came here to do, whether you remember it or not. And you don't need to be in service like a nurse or a doctor or a frontliner. You can just be a housewife, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important jobs, yes. A mother. Now we're playing so many roles with, you know, teaching our children from homeschooling. We're playing more roles now. Yes. But this is where it's your time to shine and stay in your focus, in your light. We are the ones that are here to hold the light for the ones that are not there yet, and they're very much in their fear. And we're here to help them. We're here to tell them, don't actually focus on the news. That will bring, and it's not to say bury your head in the sand, but we have to understand that there's a lot of news out there that's just created, it's propaganda to instill fear in us. So we need to go to the truth. And right. What is the truth? We are sovereign beings. We are eternal beings. And we have one power source that is going to blow out the grid, and that is the higher power. I call it the God force, yes. God, the divine, the infinite. And this is a spiritual war going on with COVID. It's just kicking off more intense because the planet is raising. The denser energies don't like that vibration. They get blinded by it. Right. So we see everybody scrambling right now. You have to remember who you are. Do you want to be part of the 3D, or do you want to lift with the rest of us? Because we're going to great places. Mm-hmm. So it's a kickoff to glow.
I love that. Okay, so one of the things I hear you say often is my guides, right? Our spirit guides. So these are questions that we get a lot, and I'm thinking that we may have different perspectives. So I can't wait to kind of hear yours. And I know we got some questions about it as well. So yeah, I had a question from someone that's like, who are they? You know, what are their names? How many do I have? How do I connect? And I've read all sorts of different things about spirit guides. I remember reading one time that everybody has 5. And I thought, how do you know? Like, I don't know that everybody has 5. I didn't know that I agreed with that. And then when I started learning sort of how to connect, and my intro was first through mediumship, even though I don't practice mediumship anymore, but my intro is through that. And my intuition is so subtle that for me to go up and connect to guides, it feels almost harder than going straight up. So when I try to connect, it's not that I dismiss that there are guides, because I know there are guides and I know that we have them. And my take on them as well is that most guides have been human. They have the human experience. And when we can have changing of the guides, you know, I don't know that we have the same ones all through life. Through my experience is that when we have these times where, let's say I'm suddenly now interested in healthcare, I want to learn all about pathogens and you know, airborne pathogens, then maybe I get a new guide that kind of comes in, that one of his passions or her passions when it was a human, that this guide knows more and sort of serves to sort of push, my inklings or my curiosities or where I study or where I learn in that way. So I think that we can have changing of the guides, but I've learned for me what works best is I go straight to source. I like the word God. That's just what I'm comfortable with. But God, source, Buddha, Allah, like the infinite. I love that. You said the infinite, the divine, to go straight up. And then I like to ask, okay, now that I'm connected into source energy, connect me where you would have me connect. So then I'm sort of assured of cleanliness, and then be it angelic forces or ascended masters or spirit guides or, deceased people who have wisdom. So whatever that is, I just like to go straight up rather than trying to sit and figure out who my guides are and what they have to tell me and what their names are. That's just my personal take. What's your take?
I agree with everything you just said. There is, however, one main spirit guide that ushers in with you when you are born. They come in with your journey and they connect to you throughout your whole, and they are the supreme higher guide. And then under them is also like a whole team. And I agree with you, as you ascend, as you change your mind about what you want to create and who you want to be and what you want to learn about, you will have different spirit guides coming in. I like to compare it to a school system, which is, a kindergarten teacher cannot teach you college graduate courses.
Right.
So you will have highly, evolved guides the more you evolve. And I do 100% agree going to source first, but my spirit team, I like to call them a team because I feel like they are a team.
Yeah.
They whisper in my ear, as days go on, and little things they want me to do. Some people call it your higher self. But your main guide comes with you and leaves with you when you leave this world. They leave with you. They were human at one time, so they understand the human condition. They understand what it's like to be human. Otherwise, they couldn't guide us. Most people think their relatives are their guides. I have to tell you,
I don't see that.
What's that?
I don't see that a lot. I don't see relatives as guides. I see them around.
Well, people ask me because of my mediumship, is my grandmother my guide, or my father, when he passed, is now my guide. They can actually help guide you, but they're not your born guides when you were born. But they also, your relatives and people like that have to ask for permission from the higher ups that they do not interfere with your life path and your learning. So, and one other point I want to make, when someone is asking their spirit guide for their name, because on the earth plane, we identify each other with a name and a title. In the spirit world, they do not identify themselves with names because we have many lifetimes. So one time when I asked my spirit guide, what is your name? I got the most incredible answer, and it stopped me in my tracks. And what the answer I received was, I will give you my name, Kim, but which lifetime would you like?
Wow.
Which name from which lifetime? And I went, whoa, I get it. I get it. So I want to offer that to the audience.
I love that, because I've always had the sense that the names didn't matter. And so maybe that's why. Oh, I love that.
Isn't that fun?
So that's really great. If a spirit guide comes in with us, from birth, from conception, is it different for every life based on our life purpose in that life?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
That's what I would think. Okay,
yes.
That makes sense.
I just want to point out that Peralta Tita was the one that asked that question. She says, I've been woken up at night from hearing my name being called loud in my ear. Can that be my spirit guide? It can be. It can be your relative. It can be your guide. A lot of the times it could be even an angel, which is different from a spirit guide.
Right.
Angels never incarnated on earth, but they're able to come into the earth plane to help you, perhaps calling your name to warn you about something. I've heard many stories. One woman I know personally, her house was on fire and she heard her name being called. She lives alone, but if she didn't hear her name, she would not have woken up in time.
Chills. Wow. I always teach that angels, since they have it, I think there are a couple who have been human. Sandalphon and maybe one more, and I can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe Metatron, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I think 2 have been.
Yeah, well, it's been said Metatron perhaps was human. Perhaps. I heard that.
Yeah, but I always kind of go to like, angels are there to sort of whisk you out of trouble, to kind of save and help. And so call on that. And spirit guides are more like, well, will this trouble serve her? Will it help wake them up? So spirit guides are more about the lessons and the learning, and angels are more about the safety and the, saving.
Well put, well put. Spirit guides are more like day to day. Oh my goodness, she's getting off the path. We have to bring her back. And that's their job. So yeah, please reach out to any of them. They're there to serve. But also they want you to ask. They want your acknowledgement. See?
Right.
And so give it a chance. Simple thing. I tried it with a parking spot. Try it. You guys will be amazed at the fact that
I'm trying to currently create that I win a random drawing for a free Bronco. so I'm like, okay, can you guys help me with this? Like, it's just a want, it's not a need, but just to call in that help and support and see if it lines up with whatever the purpose, higher purpose from source is meant to be. But it does work. It really does help.
Well, I do want to point out though, guys, it won't work if it's not for everyone's highest good.
Yes.
It has to not sort of infringe on anybody else's life path. It has to be good for your highest good, and then you will see it unfold.
Right.
Because the universe is just so intelligent in its wisdom, it won't give you something and take something from someone else. Right. You see?
Right. 100%.
Right.
Okay. So I know that you're actually a medium, right? And I'm trained in mediumship. So we get lots of questions about mediumship all the time. And I know you had some around mediumship and intuition as well. So I'll let you talk about those questions.
I'm looking at my list. Joan B. from Facebook. Is it safe to use a pendulum? And what is my feeling on a Ouija board? I actually did sell pendulums on my website. I believe in them. They're crystals. And they work with energy, and they work with our chakras. Everything is intention, guys. Although I do not agree with Ouija boards, because that is a real, you're really looking for trouble to open up portals that really do connect to lower, even below 3-dimensional vibration. And you do not want those types of entities coming in to connect with you. So be careful. I know that there was a lawsuit going on, and if I'm not mistaken, it was against Milton Bradley, I believe, or the maker of the Ouija board, trying to get it off the shelves because of so many unfortunate events that happened to a lot of teenagers, like the Ouija board.
I believe that. Yeah, my niece one time sent me a message, and I think she's very gifted. And she sent me a message and was like, hey, can playing with the Ouija board make stuff happen? Because we were playing with it and it made some weird stuff. And I was like, immediately, do not touch it ever again. Like, do not. I have the worst feeling about them. I don't like them at all. I totally agree. And pendulums, like you said, I love. I think they're so helpful. I even like to use the body as a pendulum. Do you ever do that, Kim?
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. So you just ask, like, show me yes and show me no, and your body will lean a certain way. And then once you have that clarity, you can ask questions of your body to tell you the truth, which I love, because I think our body is our truth teller.
Oh, I always say, go to your heart. Go to your heart. What do you feel in your heart? Not your head. The head will always trip you up because it's too analytical, and it makes decisions based on what you were taught, such as fear. Yep. So fear doesn't like to dwell in the heart. It dwells in the mind. So Go to the heart. What does your heart tell you? Follow your heart. This is like these sayings were created for a reason. Your heart will never lie. And so I teach all my students, when you do readings or when you're trying to receive an answer, don't go to your analytical thinking. It's not where the truth lies.
Right. Oh, I love that. Okay. And then we had another question from your follower, Carol C. on Facebook. She wants to learn more about protecting herself when she's around negative energy.
Correct.
Can you talk to that?
Absolutely. There's so many ways you can protect yourself. You can even wear or carry on your person some crystals, some stones, black obsidian. A lot of these crystals take the hit of the negativity. they actually, if you have them on your person, they take the hit for the negative. So you don't have to absorb it into your own field, your energetic field.
Right.
And I like to start each morning with a meditation or a visualization. It doesn't need to be long. Even do it before you get out of bed, or put your feet flat on the floor, even if you're sitting on your bed, and picture the protective white light of a beautiful bubble encasing your whole body with no rips, tears, or holes in this bubble. So nothing negative can penetrate. It can just bounce right off,
Right.
and it won't enter your field. So with that being said, crystals are also very good to wear. You can also transmute energy that you might have picked up somewhere by grounding, you know, taking a nice hot bath with magnesium salts, going to the beach if possible, walking in nature. If you're a city person, and I recommend getting a lot of house plants that can actually absorb negative energy, and you can put your you know, fingers in the dirt to ground.
This
So
plant here is my buddy.
oh, and it's thriving. It looks fake, Dana.
Isn't it gorgeous? Look how happy.
It's so green.
It's so green. I love plants. I have lots of plants. But it's like, you know, in the shamanic tradition, they teach the plant people, like there's only so many kingdoms, right? So you've got the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, the stone kingdom, you know, and the human kingdom. And like, that's basically it. And that everything is alive, you know, it's all alive. And so there are stones and crystals that have energy that it absorbs, and it works with you. Like it wants to, if you have a set of crystals and you're doing some kind of healings or meditations, if you ask like which one wants to serve, you know, which one wants to work with me, you'll feel a pull to a crystal. Or if you're clairvoyant, you might see a glow come from the stone. Or if you're clairaudient, you might hear a stone saying, pick me. You know, when I go to sometimes pick flowers from my yard, I will always say like, who wants to volunteer to be cut to come inside? And you can just feel some just go, no, not me, you know, and some are like, pick me. You can just really feel that life energy. And I do think that flowers and stones, and I think all of those things are protective. I've actually read that periwinkle, it's like a purple flower when it blooms, I believe, but periwinkle or dried periwinkle can be very protective against negative energies or even deceased, you know, spirits that may be dead. And so even putting that, you know, drying it up and putting that in some kind of a little amulet and wearing around your neck can help as well. And by the way, speaking of all of this, we have a little visitor with us. Sophie just popped in my lap. Isn't she cute?
Oh, what a doll. Look at those ears.
She just wants to be part of it, but she does snore and fart. And so if you guys are hearing stuff, it's not me, it's the dog.
Okay, smell-o-vision. Dana, I agree with you. Everything has a consciousness. And when people ask me, you know, which stone I can explain which stone is good for what emotion and what to clear. But I do agree. Allow the crystal to pull you and call you.
Right.
Right now, though, I have to talk about the root chakra being, with many people are having a problem with their root chakras, which is, you know, at the base, at the bottom of your spine, below your pelvic. It's because that is the chakra that kind of gives us our sense of safety in the world. And right now, the rugs have been pulled from under us. And I don't want to, you know, talk about this topic without informing people how we have to strengthen our root right now. And I love carnelian, I love red moonstone, any type of red stone. Sometimes even, believe it or not, red underwear, guys.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Red underwear. If you can find them, it will give you a sense of having more safety right now. We need to feel safe in our world, and we're not.
Yeah,
So,
you know what stone I love for this is raw ruby. Like it's just, it looks almost black, but it's like raw. And I have one of those on my front porch, and I just keep it there to remind myself to ground and to remind the house to be a grounding place as well. That's a great point. I
Yeah,
love
so
that.
guys, get that root chakra strengthened, because that's like just having a good foundation on a house. We
Right.
need a good foundation in our spiritual bodies,
Right.
and so you guys can look into those stones.
Yeah.
That was a good question from guys. And there is one more question, but Booby Lobby 123 from Instagram.
I love that.
Yeah, Booby Lobby. So we just answered your questions about a lot of the stones. Which one should you get first? There is no first. Feel in your body what you need to strengthen, which chakra. And I don't know that we're really going to go over chakras too much in depth in this conversation,
Right.
but I do cover them in my books that I have on my website. And Dana, you give a lot of courses and classes on chakras.
I do. I give a lot. I have one starting in September that's going to be really in depth about chakras. And then on my Instagram, which is Dana Child's Intuitive, I do a chakra per month. So right now it's June, so it's the 6th month. So it's all month is all about the 6 chakras. So if they follow on Instagram, they can get tons of information about chakras.
That's an easy way to remember that. That's
Yes.
wonderful.
Yes.
So let's get to our next topic, which is karma and soul contracts.
Yes.
So Robin S. from Facebook, talk more about soul contracts. Do we have one for eternity, or are there many? Can you dissolve a soul contract? Great question. Yeah, we are dissolving a lot of our soul contracts now as we rise into 5D. Mm-hmm. We're breaking timelines down. So timelines meaning a lot of the different lifetimes and lives we've led. Our soul is sort of rooted in these different timelines. So for example, if I died in one of my lives drowning in the ocean, I now have to sort of clear that fear. So, and I spoke about that also in my book. That's one of my fears. And, or even a childhood fear in this lifetime. So we will be triggered right now to clear things. So if you find yourself being triggered and wanting to fight with everyone and getting your feelings hurt so easily, look at what's triggering for you. We are breaking contracts right now.
Right.
We don't have to repeat these karmic lessons anymore. Right now.
And it's interesting too about karma, because I had questions about karma. From Martha from IG says, how does it work? How does karma fit into all this? And I just want to kind of go over that definition of karma. So, because I don't look at it like, if you do something bad, then it's going to come back to you. And if someone else does something bad, it's going to come back to them. I don't look at it cyclical like that. I more feel it as how you meet yourself, like the self meeting the self. And to give an example, because it's hard to explain, is years ago, I had a group of girlfriends and I had a boyfriend, and I was going to break up with the boyfriend. I knew I was going to break up with him that next night. And a girlfriend was asking how it was going. And I said, oh my gosh, I have to tell you guys, but please keep it between, our circle, that I'm going to break up with him tomorrow. It's just not good. Well, I didn't realize, was having problems with her husband, who was a good friend of my boyfriend. Went to him and told him. He warned my boyfriend. So the next day when I was talking to the boyfriend at the time, he was like, oh, you're coming over to break up with me. He was livid, as well he should be. It was not right of me to speak that, before I talked to him. And then I was so hurt, the fact that I felt betrayed by her, right? But then fast forward 3 years later, she is now going through a divorce with her husband, and I was good friends with the person that she was having an affair with.
Oh my goodness.
That no one knew. And I had lunch with her husband, and I thought to myself, I was like, this is where we keep the karma in play. Like, oh, I could tell him, and it, or we don't. And it wasn't about her and what she did. It was really about me and who I was choosing to be or how to show up. And my awareness was, that's really not my business. That's for them. And I don't want to insert myself into their karma. So I look at karma as sort of the choices we make, who we want to be and how we meet ourselves. And I feel like karma can be changed as well, Kim. I think you feel that way as well, right?
Well, yeah, that's the choice moment right there to break the karma. It's, did you learn? Did you ascend? Did you rise above it? you rose above that situation. So in my opinion, that karma with that person and that situation was dissolved.
Right.
But
right.
I will tell you this, Dana, you know, knowing about the laws of the universe, there is one called the law of balance. And I kind of do believe that there is, and it doesn't have to be as brutal as we may think, like we have this payback situation. But I do feel that these situations will come up. That's why they say what goes around does actually come around. And so I do want to point that out. But in that choice moment, you can choose to rise above it and say, I learned that lesson. Get the ego out of it, because we have to transcend our ego.
Right.
You could very easily got back at that girl, but you chose not to.
Right.
So transcending the ego can very easily dissolve karma and say, you know what? This is actually not about me. If you can look at everyone through the lens of love, you have to see when people try to hurt you, who hurt them? So if you can look at it that way and not take anything personal, who hurt that person that they're trying to hurt others? So
Right.
this is how we learn how to look through the lens of compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Compassion is a total game changer.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. I love your little story. That I love putting it into real life stories.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I just want to not forget to answer that question for Robin. Do we have one soul contract? No, I don't feel that we do. Because like I said, when you learn and you ascend, then you can kind of get the next learning lesson and keep ascending from that. And then Patty M from Facebook, do we continue to have free will when we pass? And is there a structure in the spirit world?
That's a great
question. I love that question.
Me too. Yeah, I'll let you take it. I have interesting thoughts about free will.
I don't feel free will ever leaves us. We always have a choice. And that's exactly what we just spoke about. In that moment, what will you choose? Right. There is a divine order in the spiritual realm and in the universe. The whole universe is divine. There's not one hair on anybody's head that has not been accounted for in any time. And time is an illusion anyway. So don't look at timelines as we know it, night and day. That's right. Only been created for the earth plane so that the earth can sleep, right, as well as our bodies need sleep. Right. But in the spirit world, we do not need sleep, but there is a divine structure to everything that's here and in the spirit world. But free will, absolutely. In the other realm, I do many readings where people come through and loved ones come through and they say, I have free will even over here, meaning you can choose to keep ascending, or you can choose to stay on one level even when you cross over. And in my television shows, The Haunting of, many episodes, if not all of them, really lend to that theory that we don't just automatically cross over and we're sitting on a cloud playing a harp. Right. We continue to have free will. Right. There's more work. To forgive ourselves, to do the work, to forgive others, to rise above it, to see through the lens of love. Yeah. And I want to know what you have to say about that, Dana.
No, I do agree. I have this weird, I spent like a year contemplating free will because I'm like, of course we have it. We can choose, and we can see those moments where we choose to break the karmic cycles, to break the patterns. We have those moments. But I also think that ultimately, and I don't know, I'm not sold on myself 100% yet, but I just muse on it. Like if God, that eternal sort of being, the infinite wisdom, knows what we're going to choose, like knows who we are inside and out, so knows what choices we will make, is it then free will, or is everything really designed knowing, right? This being knowing what choices we're going to make. And then it made me think, is there then sort of an aspect of a spiritual God who knows everything, knows how it's going to be, and then an earthly God, the part of earthly God that walks with you through the choices as you start to shift and change? So it's like, right? I know it gets really deep in there, but I'm like, maybe there's this part of us that we need to believe we have free will, and we have to exercise that free will to do our spiritual contracts, our soul contracts, our karmic pieces. But ultimately, is there free will if there's the knowing from the divine of what we're ultimately going to choose and what that path looks like?
Honestly, if I were to tell you what I know or what I studied and what many philosophers talk about,
Yeah.
it might blow everybody's minds, and I'll just really touch on it quickly.
Okay.
If you understand a little bit of quantum physics, it's not so much the creator knowing what you will choose. There are many timelines with the outcome that exist with what you will choose. We're speaking about the 3D timeline because we are on Earth.
Right.
But in other timelines, quantumly speaking, if you might have chosen the other outcome and might be living it out on that other timeline.
I believe that.
I don't want to freak anybody out, but there's just so much more to our existence than anybody can ever fathom.
Yeah, no. Well, and if we think about, there's no such thing as time, and we can go down wormholes with this stuff, I know, but if we think about there's no such thing as time, and then we have all these parallel sort of dimensions, universes,
Thank you.
our past lives and our present lives and our future lives are all really happening simultaneously.
Correct.
Which means that whatever we choose in one life can impact and heal or not anything that we're doing in another life.
And that's why I speak about timelines, because they're all connected to this, and I speak in layman's terms. So all you really need to know is, what choice do you want to make in this timeline, me as Kim Russo, in this now moment. Right. So I don't want to confuse anybody, but it's concentrate on the now moment as the person you are in this lifetime. Right. And in this instance, 5D, not 3D anymore. We're not 3D anymore. So why don't we move? You had a question about karma. Well, we did answer it from Martha.
Yeah, but you know what we were just talking about, it gives us into the next question from Betty M on your Facebook, who says, can you give insight on Akashic records? And I'll just kind of go first and then I'll let you go. But when you were talking about focusing on the present life, so the Akashic records, if it's that file cabinet of every life that we're also living, right, or that we think we have lived or are living, it's that file index. When we access or are allowed access into the Akashic records to know what the lifetime was, I always say it doesn't make sense to just play in the Akashic records. Like, who cares, like, what you were or what you've been or what you're going to be? If you're given that information, it's given because somehow it ties into the life you're living now. And so if you think about the parallels between that life that you're given information on and your current life, there's healings or gifts or skills that can be pulled over from that life. And I think the whole point of Akashic records is to allow us to see, how does it serve our current existence? That's
always
take.
Yeah, always. And for those of you who do not know what the Akashic records are, it is actually a book, an energetic imprint with chapters, and it has the imprint of your whole soul's journey of every life, of every incarnation, of every part of your existence. And really quickly is during a lot of the readings that I give people, they can't seem to move away, for example, from a relationship or a spouse, and it's just so toxic for them. And when I look into the Akashic records, I will see that they already resolved and paid forward the karmic debt. That's how we use that term, here on earth. Yeah. And they do not need to keep pursuing the relationship because the debt has been solved and resolved. And then their free will can choose to stay if they'd like, just for experience purposes. But a lot of relationships I see are connected to the book of their soul. and they've been in many of their lifetimes, these
Right.
particular people, and they all came to kind of play a different role at a different time, and to dissolve karma and create karma. But we are now getting off the karmic wheel. It's like a hamster wheel. And now ascending into 5D like we've never done before. We're getting off the wheel of karma. Hallelujah. Isn't that great?
Yes, relief.
We're being freed. So karma is changing now. Oh, great question from Deborah W. from Facebook. What if someone reincarnates before we get to the other side? Will we be able to see them? Well, a lot of them won't usher into the 3D or earth plane, 5D now, until all of the soul connections get to the other side. However, if you realize the quantum physics theory that I spoke about, there'll always be a part of the soul that exists when you get there. You'll always recognize a part, not our whole soul doesn't always come into each lifetime, but aspects of our soul does come. Okay, so again, another rabbit hole, food for thought.
Yes.
But
and Kim, that makes so much sense. I just want to say, one of the last mediumship readings I gave, and one of the reasons where I was like, okay, I'm like sort of, I need to step back from mediumship. A woman came in to connect to her mother. And when I connected to her mother, I kind of just, you know, not full trance, but like, whoop, it just kind of the information starts coming through. And her mother was talking about, it actually took me by surprise, but her mother was talking about how she was still her mother. We could feel her personality, but she had already reincarnated. She told sort of where she was, what body she was in. She was talking about another aspect of her soul that was doing spiritual work at the right hand of God for something, helping children. I can't remember what it was. And she started talking about these different aspects of her soul. And I, 15 minutes after talking, I looked at my client's face and it was just like white, you know what I mean? Just like, and I just went, oh my gosh, this is not, she just wanted to connect to her mom. I was like, this is not what you wanted. You just wanted the personality part. And I said, so I'm so sorry. And I actually just stopped the reading, and she came back later for energy. It was all good. I actually loved this woman, but it was a knowledge to me for the first time where I could feel, and her mom was very spiritually awake when she was on the planet, which I think is why she was able to communicate all these things to me. But she was very much sort of in different aspects of her soul. And it was the first time I had awareness that we don't just kind of, we're not sitting and waiting going, oh, when are they going to come over to the other side? And when are they? It's like, we're busy. We have aspects of ourselves that kind of go and all disperse in all places. We're much more energetically complex than we seem as humans in a human body, locked into one place.
That's right. Right. And we will see our loved ones when we get there, and our pets. And we will recognize each other by the energy. So don't worry about titles again, guys. Some people do reincarnate right away, like the ones that were taken and snatched away, like big events and tragic accidents.
Like 9/11.
But they typically do come back into the same family, and or an aspect of their soul does. But the whole soul, think about your whole soul being able to fit into one human body. It's too expansive. It doesn't even make sense.
Right. Well, it's like the Walt Whitman says, I am not contained between my hat and boots. I love his poetry, and I probably just wrongly paraphrased it because I'm also famous for wrongly paraphrasing things. But it's,
no, but I know what you mean. I got that one.
Okay, so question, could an aspect of someone, if they come back and they reincarnate and they don't come back into the same family, but could an aspect of their soul come back in a pet?
Yeah, honestly, my take on that is highly unlikely, because once you've evolved to the human vibration and the intelligence of the human vibration, it's not typical that you would go back to the animal kingdom, although animals are pure love, so their vibration might be even higher than a human.
Yeah.
So you could look at it that way too, but I've never had that happen. So from my own experience, I have not had that happen. So I don't know about that, and I don't think that's true. But maybe anything's possible.
That with Sufi, the little dog that we just met, who popped her little face up here, she showed me a lifetime in which she was a a panther, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then she showed me a lifetime in which she was a Tibetan monk guarding something, and then was killed and didn't guard it well, and so felt like she wasn't good enough to come back as human. So one of the things I keep telling Sufi in this lifetime is, you'll make a great little human. You will make a great little human. Like, you can do it, just kind of giving her that encouragement. So I wonder if from that example, if a trauma could sort of cause us to freak out and kind of backtrack a little. You know how we self-punish as humans, right?
Yeah.
So like a trauma could cause the soul to go, let me go in this territory and make sure I have this now, and then I can come back in. So I wonder if, I don't have a set opinion on it yet, but just from just feeling my dog's experience, I just think like maybe there could be a trauma that could set us, if that is a will of evolution, it could set us, back.
Perhaps. I do believe in vibrations and evolution, and everything is a vibration. So perhaps if animals have a higher vibration than humans, in the sense of, like I said, their unconditional love, and humans have not mastered that yet.
Right.
So it is possible. I don't really know, and I'm not ashamed to say it, but I've never had that experience where a human came back into a pet.
Right.
However, let's just move on. So, because we're on a roll now.
We are.
Oh, I love that. Will the soul of a miscarriage, Susan Z. Will the soul of a miscarriage grow up in heaven? Yeah, because it's evolving. So they grow. You look at it on the earthly plane as, age like 1 to 20, 20 to 30. So the span of a human life is an average of 80 to 100 years old.
Right.
But the span of a soul is infinity. It's infinite. It has no expiration date. But so look at the soul, even when they come in as your own baby, they have to come in as the baby just for the body purpose, to start from the beginning in the human experience. But the soul doesn't have to be that of a baby soul. And
right.
That's hence the term old soul. We all know, like, how does this person know this? I never taught you this. So they evolve. Our soul continues to evolve, if you want to look at that as an age, but it's ageless. The soul is ageless. So
right.
There's your answer there.
Right.
Short and sweet.
Love that question. Sweet.
Yeah. And then, Jerik from Instagram, does religion matter when it comes to the afterlife? I've never had anybody come through to me telling me what other people should believe, but typically I've heard of a lot of testimony from people who have actually had near-death experiences, and the master or the God that they have served in their lifetime is typically who they see when they get to the other side.
That makes sense. I think we create, right? So we're creating sort of what we believe in.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So religion is a man-made concept. Religion in general is man-made, and that just means, I don't mean who you believe in, I mean who do you believe in, and all the set of rules, like
right.
Like the Catholics were, so first you could eat meat on Friday, then you can't eat meat on Friday. First they did believe in reincarnation, and then they didn't believe in reincarnation. So man-made religion is all about controlling that congregation.
Like a set of rules and a set of laws. And I do think there are incarnations that we have, or people where they're having an incarnation where they need the structure of the religion, or they need to be introduced into the concepts in some way, or maybe it really does serve them, save them, make them, better, have a better life. And so it's not that all religion is wrong, but I do think there's a point where we recognize sort of the humanness of it and can sort of go beyond into the sort of expansive infinite of what spirituality and God is.
Right, because religion really was created to segregate us. If your beliefs are different than mine, you know what, I can't marry you.
Right.
I'm just giving you examples. So religion definitely was created to segregate, so was politics, and, I can go on and on and on about segregation.
Right.
But honestly, there are universal laws that not one of us is exempt, and we must abide by the universal laws, or the laws will make us abide.
Right.
We know that. We've
right.
seen it.
Right.
What else do we have, Dana?
So we're moving into a topic of signs and omens. And so I have a question from the Healthy Family Table from IG, and she says, I know you've said things about signs. How do you know what is a sign and how to interpret it? And then Christine from IG says, how do we trust signs when I know I'm capable of manifesting or interpreting them based on my own desires or my own agenda, right? So yeah, they're great questions. So what's the sign and how to interpret it? I like to set up like what I'm looking for a sign for. You know, I like to kind of put out there to the universe, be clear about this. You know, I need a sign for this. What is this sign? So then I know what I'm looking for. But I think our ego, like if we can make the sign mean anything, I do think our ego can get in the way and sort of feed that part of what we're wanting to see, what we want it to mean. And in order to get out of that, we have to be in this real like open-hearted, expansive place where we're allowing it to come in without interpreting it based on our needs, right? Or our fears, because fear is a big thing. I think fear is where we hit, because I do think fear is ego a little bit. So I think when we hit fear, that's when we start to misinterpret, you know, some things and some signs. So I just like to very specifically ask for clarity. But what I've learned in my work, through my readings, through just sort of trying to live a more intuitive life, I've learned that almost everything is a sign. You know, there's really not a whole lot that isn't a sign. Everything is kind of put in place to give us pointers. Yesterday I was driving and I had every car pull out in front of me. I hit every red light. I hit, you know, it was like everything that kept saying slow down. And so once I finally got that, I was like, okay, tonight I'm going to bed early and I'm just going to not do anything because I've been working really late every night. And I thought, I'm just going to slow down today because that was the sign that was coming in all the time. So when we look at our world around us as giving us signs, then I think we're really keyed in. What's your take on it?
That's the trick, being keyed in and understanding. Basically, signs come in all forms, and a lot of people, before they cross over, they discuss signs with their loved ones. Mm-hmm. But I want to point out to people that if you tell your loved one to send you, I don't know, a hawk as a sign, maybe they cannot actually manipulate that energy, but they'll get something very close to it. Right. And they'll either give it to you in the moment, or when you're, you know, at your celebrations. They love celebrations, and they're with you in times of heartfelt tragedies and grief. So always look for the signs, more so when there's a big celebration in your family, a wedding, a baby, or anything, the purchasing of a home, new career. They always want us to know they're still with us. Mm-hmm. And I always like to just let people know, if most people don't believe in coincidence. So as long as you don't believe in coincidence, that's your sign. Signs can also come through other people, through dreams that people have. There's so many signs that, again, I've been told to call people in the morning when I wake up, and I don't. Sometimes it's even not the best news, and I hesitate, and I'm just get this nagging push, call them. Right. So I'll call the person, I'll say, okay, something's going on in your family, your mother or your father, they want me to reach out, and what's going on? And then I'll find out, and then sometimes it's even just goes into a mini reading, and it just resolves or gives them comfort. Signs are created for comfort, and we're all connected. I receive dimes from my father consistently. I started a jar of dimes, and I have 2 already, and they show up in the most unusual places where you would never see a dime.
Right. You know. Oh, I love that. I have that with my grandmother comes to me in dreams. So she'll show up to me in dreams all the time. She teaches me stuff about spirit. It's fascinating. She teaches me a lot of stuff, and she always shows up when I'm sick. And my grandfather, we would talk about the war. He served in World War II, and we would talk about the war, and he actually gave me his Purple Heart, because we would talk about, I know, it's just so beautiful. And so what will happen is, after he died, which was crushing for me years ago, I would find these Purple Hearts everywhere. Like, I got my neighbor's mail by accident and it had a Purple Heart stamp on it. I was driving down a highway and I heard in my head, like, look up, and I looked up and it's Purple Heart Memorial Highway. And yeah, and when I was in China and we were in Hong Kong, and so everything was on the TV was, you know, in Cantonese, man, I can't remember which is in Hong Kong, but it was not in English, of course. And then suddenly, so we're just doing something else, and suddenly this commercial in English comes on, so it catches my attention, and it's about a purple heart, like a museum with a purple heart. And I just thought, wow, so it just comes in all the time. I can see like just sort of painted purple hearts, you know, that license plate with the purple heart tag. And I just know, like, oh, that's my grandfather. He shows up to me all the time this way.
That's a specific one, right? And they'll always try. They're very clever too. They want you to them, whether it be the birthday that they had and showing up on license plates, or maybe even the time they passed away. And what I want to point out to people more, just so you know, because people want to know, how will I know?
Right.
Something, they will also not only send you a sign, but they'll spark something in you to connect you to think of them.
Right.
That's when you know.
Right.
So
that's what I say to my clients as well, is like, they go, oh, I just think about, you know, my deceased sister all the time. And I'm like, that's her. Like, that's her kind of out of the blue, like coming in, you know, and saying, hey, this, hey, that, hey, I'm here. Okay, so Kim, this has been so much fun. I know that we have more questions. We have great questions on purpose. We have all kinds of fun questions, but I think we need to sort of end for today. So because I know I have some clients I have to get to, but this has been great, and we'll see how it goes. And if there's demand, then we can always think about doing another one and see what kinds of good questions keep rolling in.
I know, and you know, I think this was a great start to have our spiritual chit chat, and I want to thank everybody for writing in. You guys gave us great questions, and these are questions that so many people have. So God bless everyone. Stay calm and centered and focused. Until next time, namaste.
Bye.
Dana, talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good.